Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Small Business Legal Guide, the top 3 business care strategies for every small business. I'm Susan Burns, your on-call business partner and attorney. Welcome. So happy you're here. We hear so much these days, these rapidly changing, scary days about self-care, but we don't hear much about business care. Business care is self-care, and I think business self-care is one of the things that's of paramount importance to all of us. You know, as entrepreneurs and small business owners, this is a very uncertain time. We don't know what's going to happen next. How long is this going to last? How is it going to impact our business, short term, long term? What is this all about? And, so I wanted to put something together here to help you navigate through this and come out as intact as possible. First of all, who this webinar is for, I work with small businesses. I have for multiple years. And so and my belief is that small businesses are the backbone of the economy, and that without small businesses, we go nowhere fast. And I love working with small businesses, so I wanted to be able to provide for business owners, a resource for business owners who are looking for business legal support, clarity, and direction in their near-term business planning, and a little bit of stress relief. I think that goes hand in hand with clarity is the stress relief. Once you have clarity, you can find a direction and you can have some stress relief from that. I mean, there are a lot of other resources for that, meditation, exercise, all those kinds of things, but I wanted to provide this. So why am I doing this? As I said, I think that small businesses are the backbone of this economy, and I really want to help smart business owners understand their options and be more successful. If you succeed, we all succeed. So it's a critical time, and I'm really glad you're here. And hang on one second. Okay, so there we go. I had to check one thing. So why should you listen to me? And well, because I said so, and I'm the oldest of 5, and I'm used to bossing people around. But I've been practicing law and working with small businesses for many, many years, decades, and just a few things clients and law partners that I've worked with have said about me. One client, a banking client, Susan definitely has your back. Working with Susan, I have much more clarity in making my decisions. Susan helps me understand the risks and makes it so much easier to navigate. I'm so happy Susan is on our side, and one of the best compliments I ever received was from a partner I worked with early in my day as a lawyer. Susan is the most creative lawyer I have ever worked with, and he really appreciated the way a lot of times lawyers are used to giving black and white answers. No, that's not what the law says, so no, you can't do that, or it's this way or that way. And I've always worked to be creative in finding solutions. Oh, glitch in the screen. Finding solutions and working to find that win-win. And also, if a door slams, it's not a definite no. It's, maybe you want to go a different direction. So that's something I just always worked on and always believed. I do want to make my own disclaimer, friendly reminder here. This is general business advice, general legal information. I am not your lawyer, and I advise you to engage professionals to help you through this navigate through this. Now, I know everybody's cutting back on expenses, but now is not the time to go it alone. I'll just say that. So what are the top 3 business care strategies for every small business? They are these: understanding your risk and opportunity, clarity in your decision making, and clarity again. You'll find I'm big on clarity, clear and flexible strategies. So when you understand your risk and what your opportunity is, you can make those clear decisions, and then you can come up with a strategy. And as long as you stay flexible, which we all need to be in this time, as long as you understand that you need to be flexible, I think you're in a much better position to succeed. So understanding the risk and opportunity, where are we looking? So there are a lot of ways and a lot of places to look here. You've got your contracts, you've got your employees, you have customers, vendors and suppliers. You may have a lease either for equipment or for real property. And then there is the risk of bankruptcy, either your own or somebody that impacts your business in a significant way, a supplier, a vendor, somebody that you're engaged in a contract with. So these are areas that all impact your business. So they're risk, but the other side of, I think it's there's risk, and then the other side of that coin is opportunity. So let's talk about these. Going through contracts. First of all, whatever contracts you have, a lot of people I've been talking with are just hitting the panic button, and I've received some calls. Well, so what do I do about this? Let's look at your contract. What does your contract say? And, consult with your lawyer. What are the terms of that contract? And do you have any obligations? Do you need to give notice? Or do you want to suspend your contract? The other thing you want to look at here is, first of all, there are contractual terms, and then there is your relationship with the people on the other side of the contract. So think about who is on the other side. How would you best approach them? Look at your contract, understand what your negotiating position is, and here's why I'm saying consult with your lawyer. Get clear about what it is. Where are your strengths and where are your weaknesses in your negotiating position? One of the things I want to talk about is in the terms of some contracts, there is a you'll see this language, and people call it boilerplate, which it is not. It's called force majeure, or it's an act of God. And that's a term that in your contract will say that if things beyond control happen, one party or the other is relieved from performing. Now is the time when those kinds of things are very important. We don't think of it so often here because in the States, because like most often people think about tsunamis, or you might think about it more on the West Coast if you're dealing with earthquakes or things like that. But these are could be natural forces, or can be strikes or government actions that interfere with business. Excuse me. So you want to understand if that's in your contract, and if it is, what exactly does it say? Does it include this? So do you need to invoke that contract to get yourself out of a situation? And maybe in your whole business strategy, you do need to suspend payment of something, or your obligation, or somebody wants to suspend their obligation with you. You want to understand how that impacts you. There are other, contractual terms that impact impossibility of performance or frustration of purpose. If there is the act by the government declaring a state of emergency, for example, we have a Minnesota peacetime state of emergency. There have been various acts invoked by the President of the United States. So how do those enter into your ability to perform the terms of your contract? So these are all things that I want you to be aware of. And the reason I can't analyze your contract without looking at the terms of it, but the reason I want to talk to you about it in general terms today is so that you understand that there are some possibilities out there. There are some things for you to look at, and it is important for you to understand your contracts, what the terms are, and get your negotiating position, be clear on that. I always maintain that contracts serve multiple purposes, but one is to provide clarity in the relationship at the outset, to serve as a memory if we forget what the terms are. If we have a dispute, wait, let's go back. What did it say? Oh, here, paragraph 3 says this. And the other thing is to make it easy to determine the course of action if there is a dispute, or this may not be a dispute, but this is a time where you need to understand what is our obligation. Now, I also want to say, if you are considering and entering into new contracts, you want to include one of these force majeure, act of God terms in your agreements. And that can cut in your favor or against you, but I think it's something you want to consider. Employees is another area of concern here. The biggest thing is people are wondering if they should retain or lay off their employees, and a lot of people have a compassion here, and they're feeling sorry for the people and they want to keep them employed. You have to think about the financial health of your business. Most states, the state of Minnesota and several others, have relaxed their requirements for employees to receive unemployment. So sometimes the kindest thing you can do is to lay off your employees so that they can avail themselves of that unemployment, relieve yourself of the obligation to make payroll, unless you have the business to support it, of course, and then when you come through on the other side, we all hope you're bigger, stronger, better, and you can call all those employees back. Now, there is also recently enacted, I think in the last 3 days, Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and that is a federal act. I have not yet had the opportunity to digest that fully, but it does apply to a lot of employers, and it requires that you give time off to deal with this pandemic, so that if people are sick or people have to attend to someone in their family that's sick, it's a sort of a Family Medical Leave Act type act, is what I've been able to understand just looking at it. But please be aware of that and check out if you need to comply with portions of that act. As I said before, the state unemployment programs are relaxing their rules, but one of the things you want to look at is do you have employees or do you have independent contractors? Independent contractors are not entitled to unemployment. So I just read something this morning that Uber is urging the president to implement a program to support independent contractors, people that are working in the gig economy. So, but again, this is one time when you want to make sure, if you know me at all, you've heard me talk about clarity in whether you have employees or independent contractors, and there can be some nasty financial consequences if you mischaracterize people as employees, as independent contractors, when they're really employees. This is one of those times when that could come up, so you should understand your risk there if you've improperly classified people, because everybody that is not able to work is going to want to have some type of revenue, and rightly so. So they want to apply for unemployment. And the state in these times will want, the bias will be toward finding that they are employees rather than independent contractors. So review your employment agreements or your independent contractors and review with your lawyer what your status is. And even if your agreement says they're an independent contractor, if they really function as an employee, that may lean in favor of the state finding that they are an employee and entitled to employment benefits. What is that going to mean down the line for you? I think you want to make sure you're taking a look at that. The other question I've received quite a bit is, are you as a business owner eligible for unemployment? And the question that there is, how do you pay yourself? If you are an LLC, likely not, because you receive a draw. But if you're an LLC taxed as a corporation, or if you're a corporation, if your business entity is a corporation and you pay yourself a salary, then you would be eligible under most state laws. Again, you have to check your own state unemployment office and their regulations, but under most of them, you would be eligible for unemployment. So it's a question to look at. And one thing I've spoken with a couple of business owners about is, in this pandemic time, people are, and I love to see this, cooperating and working together to try to find solutions. So there are businesses that need employees, all the delivery businesses and grocery stores and Walmarts and all of those kinds of business need employees. So is there a business in your area? Do you know somebody that you can work with and say, look, I've got these great employees, and, as a temporary basis, do you, can you pave the way for your employees to go work with somebody else? I think that's a thing to think about and pursue, so that you're doing that, your part there. With your customers, of course, you want to think in terms of retention, engagement, and an untapped market. And I'm going to talk about that untapped market in just a second. And that's where there's a legal requirement you can use to your advantage this time. And it's a win-win because it works for the customers too. But so right now you want to focus on why and how you can retain your customers. Is there something you can provide? And this is where you need to be creative, that you haven't been providing, and can you provide it in a different way? A lot of people are moving to providing things online, but how do you retain your customers? And engagement is one of those key things. A lot of people are offering specials to, buy now, redeem later when we get through this pandemic. Keep in mind that is a liability then on your books. So if you sell $100,000 in gift cards, that's a liability. So it's an outstanding thing that you owe to customers. But I think a lot of, especially with going to the everybody going to online, we're missing an untapped market. And this is a way that you can increase your market reach while complying with a legal regulation that you're probably not complying with. And that's having an accessible website. Then let me just say, there are more than 60 million Americans with disabilities. And the Americans with Disabilities Act requires accessibility. So if you have a brick and mortar establishment, you're familiar with that. You've had to put in ramps or doors that open automatically for wheelchairs, and you've had to go through a lot of accommodations. But there is an increase in litigation to make websites, reasonable accommodation for website means making them accessible. I have a client that does this. They provide accessible websites for small and medium-sized businesses previously that was only available for, $20,000 to $50,000 or more, so the bigger businesses could make their websites accessible. But Accessly is a company that provides accessible websites, and I do want to say plugins are not the answer. Plugins provide a separate way for people with disabilities to access, but plugins don't work with their existing technology. So there's a link at the bottom of the screen, accessly.io/get-started-go//3. Anyway, this will be all in the follow-up email that you receive from this webinar. But their original fee was $1,749 for $1,749 for setup fee and $249 a month. In light of the circumstances, they have reduced to a $249 setup fee and $99 a month. So I think now is the time to act on that and do something that, I think it's the right thing to do anyway, and we all should be doing this, but now is a good time to do that and be able to reach those people. And can you think of we're all suffering consequences from this, but can you think of another population that really needs to have digital access? And people with disabilities definitely are in that category. Vendors and suppliers, you want to review your contract terms and understand what it is that they're supplying or you are, or how is that all working. And again, if you are supplying and somebody's saying they want to disrupt the supply, work with them to find if there are other businesses that want that supply. I know a lot of people are suffering from farmers markets not opening or things like that. So there is a concerted effort of people working to, because supply chains are disrupted for the grocery stores. So can we move some of the small farm supply to the grocery stores, and how can we make that food available? How can we be creative for drop sites? How can we work together to do this? So I think, first of all, you want to review your contracts terms, and again, know your strengths and know your weaknesses and know what you have to negotiate with. And then again, work with other businesses to see how you can, once you have that clarity, then you can develop a strategy to work with other businesses to try to save the day, if you will. In leases, if you have a lease, again, you want to look at your contract terms, find out if there's a force majeure clause. And one of the things you want to be super cognizant of is if you signed a personal guarantee. So that's going to be the rub for a lot of people here. Most leases require a personal guarantee. So in that situation, if you need to break your lease or get out of your lease early because of the circumstances caused by this pandemic, you want to make sure you want to hope you have a force majeure clause in there that is written in such a way that it applies to this situation, or that work with your lawyer to identify another legal principle that can help lessen that blow. And that is to say, if you can't do all that, you need to start thinking strategically about bankruptcy and how to protect your personal assets. And here again, you're gonna hope that you dotted your legal I's and crossed your legal T's. And if you didn't, please do before you file. Informing your business entity, make sure your records are up to date and you've filed annually and you're current with the state. And here's an instant too where you might be saying, well, I'm not going to get all gnarly with the contract terms because Jerry and I have a great working relationship and we're just going to work this out. Well, if Jerry ends up filing bankruptcy, the the bankruptcy trustee is obligated to go after any possible assets that Jerry has. So if one of Jerry's assets is a contract with you, the bankruptcy trustee is going to come after you. So you want to have a global view of everything that impacts your business here. So, what are your options here? I think you want to look for sure, you want to seek professional advice. There's some financial options, resources, government resources. There are a few other resources. And I think, marketing. I think if there is a way you can be creative about your product and getting it out there and making your site accessible and marketing, I think those are good options. That's a good option to pursue and be strategic about. So, professional advice you want, of course, hang on a second. Getting a little hoarse, doing what I love to do, talk. Oh, shoot. I'm just getting a messages that people aren't able to connect to the webinar. Hang on. Just want to send this one off. Okay. All right. So for professional advice, you want to seek the advice of your attorney, and you want to make sure you understand what your legal obligations are, where your negotiating power is, what are your risks, what are your vulnerabilities, and is there a way to be creative about this and to turn some of these things to your advantage. Then the other professional you want to talk to is your CPA. I know the tax filing deadline has been moved to July, which is great for a lot of people. I know there are a lot of resources from states easing the requirement to pay certain taxes right now. So if you have employees, I know in the state of Minnesota, their sales and unemployment taxes are suspended for a while. And then your sales and marketing professionals are people that you want to work with now as well to see if you can expand your business. And a lot of people are cutting back, but to me, those are not the areas to cut back. Financial resources are another thing. Lines of credit. Do you have a personal line of credit that you can tap, or a business line of credit? First resource is your business line of credit. Let's hope that you have one. And Erica Learmark is a business coach I've worked with for a long time. Marked Mastery is the name of her business, or Triple Expert are two programs, and she's been preaching for a long time you should always have a business line of credit. And now is when everybody's saying she was right. So let's hope you have one and can use it. Again, those are often come with a personal guarantee, so be careful about using it too. But some people are resorting to their own personal line of credit. And then the other thing we have here is an SBA loan that everybody's been talking about. You can go to sba.gov//disaster, and they have, they say they're trying to make this easy for people. There are a number of pitfalls. First of all, you have to, it's like any other loan. So they're offering it at 3.75% interest, but they want collateral. So if you're borrowing more than $25,000, if you're a business of any size and need a loan to stay afloat, they want to have collateral. And so if you don't have that to offer, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. Nonetheless, they're offering webinars and instructive webinars on how to apply for this. Those webinars fill up really fast. I actually signed up for one myself this Thursday to see what the process is, and so I can be better positioned to help businesses that need and guide businesses that need to apply for this or want to. But so they have these two slides that give you your required documentation, everything you need, and so they're trying to make the process simple. That said, I think there are a lot of small businesses where this is not an option, and a lot of, so if you're a small business owner, you're not an employee of your business, and you don't have assets to pledge for security for an SBA loan, you have to be very creative here. Now is your time to become very creative. One of the things that I decided to do to work with small businesses is to offer a 1-hour business care clarity and strategy session for $250. You'll receive a follow-up email with a link to the calendar so you can schedule an appointment if you decide that's a good option for you. Normally for something like this, I would charge $500, but under the circumstances, I just want to make that available so, I can work with you and help you look at where you are. We can talk about what you have in your agreements and come up with a strategy for you and how you can navigate and cope with this situation. There are some government resources. For example, the State Department of Economic Development in Minnesota, and each state has their own economic development department. They may call it different things, but they have different resources that they've come up with for dealing with this virus, the pandemic created by this virus. So I urge you to check there. If you're in the food business, the FDA has a lot of resources, and they've been recording helpful webinars. So if you have questions, you can go to fda.gov/FCIC. If you are in the food business and you're having trouble with food transportation issues, this is FEMA wants to hear from you. It's a national emergency, so they have a website and an email address to talk with, and they say that they will be with you immediately to try to resolve any transportation issues in the area of food. And then there are different things like the Wall Street Journal and Washington Post and New York Times are making things available to businesses. So there are a lot of resources. This is one I saw in the Wall Street Journal. What can my boss make me do? But it's good to read from the boss perspective too. That reminds me, I missed a point earlier. Like if you have employees and someone gets sick, make sure that you preserve their confidentiality, but you also want to alert your other employees to make sure that they know that somebody tested positive for the virus so that they can take appropriate action with their family. And then again, accessibly, if you want to learn about the legal ramifications of accessible websites, there's a link there. And so those are some of the things you can do. And again, thanks for spending some time with me. I hope this has helped provide some clarity for you. And business self-care is a must. I'm happy to take any questions if there are questions. And I will be continuing to monitor and update my website with additional resources and additional options as they become available. So if you're on my mailing list, you'll receive that update. And let's see. Any questions? No questions. Great. Well, okay. I hope to stay connected with you. Reach out if you have questions. Sign up for a 1-hour appointment. It's going to be it will be very worth your while, I promise. And that's it for today. Stay healthy, practice personal self-care and business self-care. Thank you.